I've made quite a few mistakes over my years of DMing, and in this video, I want to talk about some of them, the lessons I learned, the regrets I have, so that you don't have to make the same ones. The first lesson learned that I have is really about trust, and I think that it's often overlooked, the importance of trust between a dungeon master and a player. And now you might be saying, well, of course that's important. How could you overlook that? But I more mean functionally, what does that look like to build that trust? And when people are kind of breaking that trust, what that also looks like. Essentially, from this, I like to roll everything out in the open. I don't like rolling private. I think when you roll private, you run the risk of the players thinking that you're just manipulating everything and their decisions don't matter. And having played in games where I really felt like that was the case, it sucks. It gets boring and you don't want to play anymore. I actually quit a campaign once because every fight was always super close. If I used my spell slots, it was a really close fight, but we always won. If I didn't use my spell slots, it was a really close fight, but we always won. And after a while, you realize that the decisions you make don't matter because the DM is just going to manipulate HP, rolls, whatever it is to make the fights feel hard, but you're always going to win. And you realize that there's no stakes. There's nothing to lose. Your decisions don't matter. And it just kind of sucks. The same thing if you roll private and you use your big spell, maybe you're low level and you just got a second level spell and you're going to use that spell slot to cast Hold Person on someone. And then the DM says,
they passed the save, your spell does nothing.
Well, if they're rolling private and it's the baddie, maybe they did or maybe they didn't because they know that if they failed that Hold Person save, the paladin's going to walk up, auto crit because they're paralyzed, and the fight's going to be too easy. Actionable items here. I don't roll privately anymore, and I really try to harbor that trust between myself and my players. If they want to go off the rails, do random things, I really try to allow them to do that. It doesn't mean that they get away with everything. In the last month, I think I've had 4 PCs die. If they make bad decisions, if they do silly things, they get punished for it. And it's not me punishing them, but I will set a scenario. And if they go at it smart, they use their resources efficiently, then they're likely going to win. Ultimately, it'll kind of come down to the rolls, especially because I don't roll private. If bad guys are critting or rolling super well, I can't change anything. That's how it goes. For the most part, if they're being smart, things will work out for them. On the other side, the most recent PC death was because instead of sneaking in, they all did a full frontal assault. And it didn't go too well. They still won, only one of them died, but you know, that's sometimes what happens. Essentially though, for the first lesson, trust is super important. You really want to take care of that. You want the players to feel like their decisions matter. The difficulty of it changes. Some of the details, like your campaigns don't necessarily have to be as deadly as the ones I have been running, but that depends on your player group and what they want out of it. But pretty much every group will always want their decisions to matter. Nobody wants to play in a game where they're playing the DM story instead of the player story, which is my second lesson, and that is don't ever put your story over player agency. And so this is kind of 2 lessons learned. One is don't fudge stats, don't fudge rolls. Even if you get away with it most of the time, eventually your players will start to question if you were being honest, and you've lost them at that point. The other side of that is more on the story side of things. Let them go do what they want to do. You may have an epic story that would be so much fun if the players would just freaking go and do it. But the problem is, if they don't want to do it, if you don't make it sound like enough fun, it won't be fun if they were forced to go do it. So as a dungeon master, something I have had to and still have to continue to get better at is making our objectives look like the most fun thing to go do. Or if they go pick something else, moving the objective to wherever they want to go. They're like, that city sounds like fun. Fine, objective is now in that city, not this other one. Whatever. Move your plans around them. Obviously, it's not a real world, so whatever you have prepped, that's going to kind of have to be moved in wherever they're going. But let the players control how they get there, the way they get there. Let their decisions matter. So essentially, don't force players to go down a specific path. Practice making the path you want them to take look like the most fun, or adapting the world around the decisions they make. And the last lesson or regret I have is around DM burnout. And this one's more of a regret because I have been in places where I'm like, no, I'm the DM and we play every week or, 3 weeks out of the month. Like, I'm the one who's running the game, so I have to, even if I don't feel like playing, I've got to put something together so that everyone can play. The problem with this is that eventually you start running boring games. Like, the inspiration isn't there. You start getting bored, so then your players start getting bored. And when your players are bored, then you you don't feel good at the end of the session, and there's nothing to really like reignite that fire, and so you can end up just running games for a long time that are just subpar, and then people just kind of start quitting D&D. They're like, I don't really want to play anymore. It's just gotten kind of boring. There's no like inspiration anymore. There's no like fire in there, and it just gets dull and people quit because it's not worth, you know, sitting there for 3 hours doing something that's boring. So what can you do? Well, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but what I have found some success doing is either A, taking time off when you get bored. Oftentimes my group will take pretty much the entire month of December off. A lot of the time when the holidays hit, we'll just kind of be like, yeah, we don't really have enough time to make it work, and we'll just take that entire time off. Then you start to miss it, you come up with ideas, and when you come back in January or whenever, it's more fun. The next, if you have anybody else that wants to DM, and this might be a full campaign, or if somebody has like smaller series where it's like, oh yeah, I've got like a 3 or 5 session arc that I want to run. Cool, that gives you 1, maybe 2 months to take a break from DMing, and then when you come back to it, you can come back at it with some more energy, some more inspiration to make it as fun as possible. Something I will say though is if you end up going with the taking a month off or 2-month off option, it really helps if you can get the characters to a position where the characters are taking a month, a year break from adventuring, so that when you come back, you're not in the middle of this random like story arc and people are like,
What were we doing again?
don't do that. Try to avoid doing that as much as possible. Try to get it to where the characters want to take a break, and the characters are now going to go on a vacation, they finish one arc, whatever. All right, so those are some of the 3 mistakes or lessons I have learned over the years of playing D&D that I think people overlook a bit and want to help you avoid. If you got any value out of this, hit the like button. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.